Hi there, my name is Matthew Enright, and welcome to Talk Show. Hi there, my name is Matthew Enright, and welcome to Talk Show. On today's episode, we feature the multi-talented Burnaby-based musician, Zac McMillan. Zac's been making tasty beats ever since he was a teenager, whose genre of music is impossible to place in any one box. I had the privilege of first meeting Zac when we both worked at a restaurant called Cottony King's Burnaby, so we talk a little bit about that, how he got his start, his sketchiest show ever, and the current state of the Vancouver music and art scene. A quick note, this was shot a little while back when COVID was just receding, so we also touch a little bit on that. So without further ado, welcome to the show, my friend and yours, Zac McMillan. So I guess my first question for you is, when you were a small kid, was there a specific album that kind of jump-started your curiosity for music?
I definitely think there's like a couple different albums, but I was talking to a friend recently. Like, I played music since I was like 12, so there's like lots of stuff that got me excited about music. But like, what actually probably got me excited about writing music was like the Lupe Fiasco Food and Liquor album.
Check it out. Now I ain't trying to be the greatest. I used to hate hip hop. Yep, because the women degraded.
As well as like some of the earlier Sublime stuff. Just like super simple songwriting, but like the way it was delivered is just like crushing. Still like really hit.
Oh yeah, like I'm on the island, it's Sublime's still a thing. It's like you come to the island and the radio station like represent the zone here. The zone. But it's like stepping back in time where they still play the same like music from when I was in high school, and it's like honestly being in the time capsule.
Today I've been invited by a local councillor to get involved in digging up a time capsule from the 1970s. Oh, what we got here now? Oh no, that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. Yeah, there must be something in here. There must be something that's not connected to some heinous crime or something. Oh, it is. Oh, cremola foam. Oh, thank you, 1970s, for cremola foam.
We're still bumping Love Is What I Got Here. Okay.
Oh yeah, at 4:20 every day they do the 4:20 Tranquility Minute, where it's just a minute of like a guy ripping a bong, and then they play some like serene music, and it's so like Vancouver Island, but I fucking love it.
That's amazing.
I guess my next question is, were there any sort of local musicians, because you grew up were you Burnaby your whole life?
Pretty much, yeah.
Were there any, at a young age, sort of local artists or musicians that caught your interest?
Definitely there was. And like me and my sister used to go to a lot of like hardcore and like ska shows, and like a lot of like screamo sort of like post-punk stuff. They had a lot of those all ages shows when we were growing up. And even like Lights Below, who was like a band that went to our high school and was like quite a bit older than me. Was like a huge fan and would go to these live gigs on the regular. Like, my parents would let me go do a show on a Tuesday when I was in like grade 6, which was pretty awesome.
Wow, that's awesome. I remember one of my first all ages shows, probably one of the only all ages shows like at a church down that way, but it was like a cool venue, some band called Counting Heartbeats. Oh, no, not again, you left yourself behind, forgotten in a pile of empty luggage, lost in the airport. But it was such a big deal being like 14, being like, I'm at a show, I'm so cool. And the guys are like, you know, they seem so old and mature at the time, but they're probably in their late 20s. You know, one of them had a kid, but like that might as well be decades when you're 14 years old.
Totally. And it was always so cool to see them, like even from your neighborhood or whatever. It made it like that much more achievable, you know? They're like,
yeah, it's like you know, you see people, you know, following their passions, and you know, I grew up in a small town, but it was still inspiring to see that. How has growing up in Burnaby affected you? You know, what kind of impact did it have on you?
I guess like I was born in Alberta, and I lived in a town called Balzac. That's a real place. And it was pretty much like farmland. And like, it was probably when I was like 5, we came to Burnaby. So like if I had stayed on farmland for for the rest of my life. My life definitely would have been like very, very drastically different. But Burnaby was, I still love it here. It's just like a really dope mix of everything. There's just from like food and just like the families here. It's just like a really nice place, but also like close enough to the city that there's, I don't know, there's other stuff going on.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think your band single-handedly upped the cool factor of Burnaby just with the album Burnabarian alone. Like, I don't know if Burnaby gets...
I'm trying to start it. It's not cool yet.
Young Burnabarian, lost in a matrix. If nothing's worth nothing, then I'll go catch a feeling and yap loud and pass round this illness. If punk rock is dead, I go stand on this ledge.
But
I don't know, man. Like, when I was, I lived there between 18 to 23 or 24, and just the gentrification that's gone on. Like, when I lived there, I was on Boundary in Hastings, so technically, I was on the last street of East Hastings, Vancouver, and then you walk across the street on Burnaby Mountain, then you're in Burnaby. And eventually, we did live in Burnaby, but it was not gentrified. It wasn't cool back then. We lived there out of necessity because it was close to our film school, and the house we were in was cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
And now I go there, and like Hastings Sunrise is really cool, and the Heights is really cool. I don't know what they're calling it now, whatever stupid name, but that was never cool, when I was there. And now it's been kind of overhauled, where it's like a place you want to go and live, and there's stuff to do and cool food, record shops, all that stuff.
Yeah, no, totally. It's been pretty crazy to see it grow so much recently.
Yeah, and you're right. It's nice being, like you're half an hour by bus from downtown Vancouver, but it's nice being out of the core of Vancouver. Like, I never want to live downtown Vancouver. Fuck that.
Totally. It doesn't really suit me either. It's
no.
I like to be close to it, but not in the middle of it.
You got the space, and you have the amenities of Burnaby.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little about where we met, which was working at Cockney King's Fish and Chips? Because I feel like that's a bit of a institution, especially for young people in that area.
Definitely. That place, like, shouts out to Dan Turner, who runs that place, and just like took so many misfit kids and just gave them like something to do.
What is this system?
Michael's system.
That's Carmen, there's the girl. Yeah, that's Sydney. She's helping us out today. Michael's system makes no sense. I'm saying something.
Literally a job. But yeah, that place was a hub for like just tons of creative people, tons of artists, like so many people just like trying to figure their shit out in general, and still have like to this day probably one of the highest paying kitchen jobs I've ever worked. Flat out.
Oh, that's
awesome.
awesome.
Because of the tips and everything. It's like that. It's still a legit spot to work,
Money, bread, dollars, cheese, cheddar, cabbage, collard, greens.
Yeah, I miss working there. Like, I miss working the till, and I've always wanted to go back for like a charity night just to see if I can remember how to do all the till. And that's where I learned, because, I get the occasional asshole customer, and like, we're all like 20 years old back then and hungover a lot of the time. But I just remember learning to like kill the customer with kindness. So if you ever get like a belligerent asshole, I just kind of smile and pretend it didn't bother me. And then you could tell, kind of ruffle them a bit more. And it's like, okay, now I know how to kind of deal with people. Like, it really sort of taught me, how to handle certain personalities.
Definitely. And like to know that there's also a point, and then it's like, why am I spending my time on you walk through life being angry all the time. Just have a good day. Goodbye.
Yeah, we're just slinging fish and chips, man. Here, we'll make your day better. Eat the fried food,
Totally.
Do you think it's important, just for people who don't know, Cockney King's is a fish and chips restaurant in Burnaby, famous for all-you-can-eat buffet. Is it on, what days?
It's on Hastings and Sperling. Or, all you can eat Monday through Wednesday.
That's it, yeah, Monday to Wednesday.
Do you remember the time that you slapped me in the face with a raw salmon fillet while I was talking to a customer?
I forgot about the customer.
I'm here at Barry Island Beach, and there's no sign to stop.
And I just deadpan like nothing happened. I was like, "Is there anything else I could get you?" And they stared at me.
Oh man.
I don't know if I should. That was a long time. We didn't serve that salmon.
No, I think it's fine. I think there was lots of shenanigans. I remember the most You know, I remember going into work one morning and it was a night after being at a rave, and it's like, okay, it's just the morning, early afternoon shift, and no one comes in anyway. And I just remember like cutting fries in the back, looking at the wall,
And the wall was like melting.
and like Dan B was the manager, and like, oh, thank God it's just Dan B today, because like
I couldn't handle anyone else.
yeah, I didn't know it was that fucked. And then like, as the one time at work, I just remember being like, I should not be here right now, but I just didn't notice till I was like in, and it's like, this isn't normal. But luckily, power through. Do you think it's important to have a job like that where it's flexible if you're an artist trying to, do something like that?
Like 100%, and like a big part of why I worked in kitchens in general, and like especially places like that, like it taught me that I could even like ask for that time for myself to fucking do what I wanted and not just grind the regular like 9 to 5 whatever, like taught me. It was like, oh, I can work 3 12-hour shifts and then go do something else for 3 days and still afford my life.
Yeah, I'd rather do that if I could, like, really get away. I hate the Monday to Friday 9 to 6, and part of me misses the old kitchen life. Like I describe, it's kind of like working on a pirate ship,
Most definitely.
And just like the way that you get so good with communicating with people that you're communicating with glances and points, and you're not even, using English, and you're literally just dancing around each other at some point, because the kitchen is so tight that you all have to be so in tune and so in sync that it becomes almost like a ballet.
Very much so.
I guess you get that sometimes. Like I work in production management for film, and you get to that point too, but it's not quite the same as when you're literally in the trenches and you're all covered in grease and stuff,
And like you said, it's literally a dance, and when you have a good night, it's like everyone has an amazing time. You like actually enjoy your time working.
Oh yeah, it was never like a chore. Like I kept my job 6 months into working, like when I got my first like production assistant job, but I just didn't. It felt like I could lose the PA job any day.
Yeah.
Like the ground could always fall underneath me. And so I like kept it. But a part of the reason too is I didn't want to give up the social life and the social aspects. It was such a huge part of, outside of my film friends. It was nice to have just other people with different interests, like everyone who worked at the kitchen. Everyone had their own thing going on. And it was really cool to like be a part of their lives, without being too intertwined.
No, that was also such a huge part of it. Is just the kitchen's just like full of, again, just like oddball misfit. Everybody's super interested in something that obscure and like passionate about it, and everybody around is like, hell yeah, what's that about?
Yeah, I remember when I was looking for work, Greg was the guy who I was just walking around with resumes.
And Greg was in Lights Below, the band I was talking about earlier, that I like grew up on. Who actually works there.
I saw him a couple of years ago, and I don't know what he's doing now, but he was managing an artist named Sam Weber who grew up where I grew up. And I think he might have even gone to my high school. I'm not 100% sure, but he was like, a big sort of folky, folk rock kind of guy.
Super awesome dude. He actually produced a couple records we were working on a long time ago, and like has been like super kind. We like stayed at his house. Such a dope dude.
Open dial, the AM band still flickers like a smile.
That's a small world. Is he in Vancouver now then? Or
he's in LA. Yeah, he's based out of
shit.
LA now, yeah. And he's just, crushing it. Just straight crushing it.
That's crazy. It's like all the people that grind and grind and grind, eventually it seems like things kind of happen at some point.
You gotta like find your zone. It seems like he found like, a place that's just like everybody's loving it,
That's insane. How would you describe the kind of music you guys make? Because obviously you do your own solo stuff, and then are you still part of Z and the Empties?
Kind of. Z and the Empties kind of just turned into, I think, that one project for Burnaby, and it's always like the Z and thing is just like I will always be working with somebody. Like nothing I put out is ever a like complete solo project. There's always like the last 6 tunes we've released has been with my friend Nick Hobden, who goes by No Calvin, and just like me and him have been working on stuff together. But like just kind of a nod to it always being a collaborative process and like never alone in doing it because I need the homies.
Okay, that actually kind of answers my next question, whereas like, do you prefer to do solo versus, working with an ensemble? But it sounds like you really draw inspiration off of other people. Like, does that mean you just rarely write or produce your own tracks? Do you need someone to bounce those ideas off of?
Totally, like a bit of both. I do spend a lot of time working on stuff alone, and like it's always kind of been my safe space to work on stuff alone and kind of push people out from that process. So by like collaborating with people, it very much showed me that I will generally, if I enjoy the process with the person, it's going to be a much better final product. Like what's going to come out is going to be, I'm going to be more excited about it even because other things will happen. But if I just like stay alone in my room for like a week working on a song, I'll just kind of like go crazy and lose the lose the sauce.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. We have a term, it's more for visual effects, but pixel fucking, where you're looking at the same shot over and over and over. And at a certain point, you can work on it forever, but there's a point of diminishing returns where it's like, at some point, someone just has to be like, good enough, or pull the plug, or move
like,
on.
Just stop doing that thing. This is all you need to think about. It's like, right.
Yeah, and just getting a fresh pair of eyes. Like if I'm working on something that's, maybe a bit more technical, or even if it's creative, I'll just get, sometimes you can't even look at it the same way. You can't look at it objectively anymore. So you just need someone else to kind of, look at it freshly, definitely. I guess. How do you hype yourself up for a show? And do you still get nervous? I know shows haven't been a huge thing the last year and a half, but it feels like things are reversing slowly but surely. Do you still get nervous before a show, and how do you prep before you go out on stage?
Totally. This in August, I played the first gig I played in like 3 years, I think. And it was a solo gig too, and I was just like with the drum machine and some keyboards and stuff, and I was like crazy nervous. And it had been a long time since I felt that way, and so I did try and do a lot of things to like put myself in a space where I would be more calm, because I know I get like a little bit like short of breath and like at least the first song I'm like just too nervous to really execute. So I've definitely been like doing breathing practices, and I'll just like sing along hella loud to whatever my favorite tune of the week is or whatever, to just try and let myself loose. But yeah, no, it's something and after that last gig, I was like, I need to figure this out, because I was just, hella nervous on stage. Still feeling it. So I don't have a recipe yet.
Is it more just like a muscle, like because like they just really haven't been a thing the last while? Is it just trying to like getting used to it again, or working that muscle a bit more maybe?
I think that's definitely a part of it. Just like doing it more regularly, and even just being comfortable with what you're doing. Because like I spent about a month figuring the show and like putting the songs together, and I wasn't as ready as I had hoped to be, I guess.
Oh, that's awesome. Where did you perform, if you don't mind me asking?
That was for Vancouver Mural Fest, and they had like a pop-up patio thing downtown. It was a really, really fun show, actually. They like set it up super nice, and there was a bunch of really cool acts that night. Yeah,
I think the last time I saw you in the flesh was at Rifflandia a couple of years ago, and that's one of my favorite festivals, because I just love going to, you're in a church 1 second, seeing, a musician you never heard of, then you go to a big Danny Brown might be performing by the brewery, or I just love, it's like being in a candy store, being like, I want some of this, and this, and they didn't do it. They canceled it the year before COVID, and then COVID, but I'm hoping it'll make a comeback. And I know for the island, they're trying to make it a bigger destination for music. So I saw that, I'm like, fuck yeah, let's make that happen, because I've always thought it'd be great and underutilized.
Let's go.
So they're trying to make it happen, but then they have to get through the red tape and the bureaucracy, which is what I worry about. But
yeah, always. It feels like there is a really high demand for it right now, especially like people just like want it, it's like,
oh yeah, like my sister and I, we go to a lot of comedy shows, but I, before went to tons of music, whether it's by myself or with people, and that's the one thing I haven't been able to really do yet. So, I was I was able to even squeeze a mini Raven over the summer, just like one little
Nice.
one, and even that was like, oh my god, this is the best. But
Yeah.
you know, I still haven't seen a live musician yet, so I'm really looking forward to, you know, in the next hopefully month or two to see that happen again.
Hmm. Definitely.
Do you have a favorite venue that you've ever played at?
Good question.
Or maybe a place that has a certain kind of energy or you know, just sort of
Mhm.
a good feeling.
We got to play at the Imperial. That was with a different band, probably like 5 or 6 years ago, with Real Mad Decent, and that was probably like the nicest sound system, and like everybody who worked there was just like super helpful and like super kind. And like, yeah, the stage in general. And I do really love that room. Just like, it's a great room. I'd love to play there again. But other than that, like even I haven't like done a proper performance there, but what Redgate's been doing the last couple of years has been keeping like independent music in in Vancouver afloat.
Just an artist. Don't mind me. I'm gonna cut my ear off. I'm crazy. Anything I do, it looks like art to you. You can't handle the truth. I'll drop the bomb on you.
In a lot of ways, I feel like they're just like all kinds of different genres of everything, and just like super inclusive, and like great place to be.
Yeah, they're one of the last. They're hanging on. They're like one of the stragglers. I love Imperial because it's got, you can dance. You can have to be on the lower level floor and dance, and then you can, if you want to hang back, you can just hang back too and enjoy your drink. And there's, no matter where you are, it's a good view.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you go in the bathroom, and then there's people doing blow in the bathroom occasionally.
Come on, man.
But like, as far as like a music venue, it's sort of a underrated because it is an amazing setup there, and I don't think people think of it that often when they think of music venues in Vancouver.
Totally. But yeah, it's such a great room, crazy sound system.
Yeah, I think I have the PK sound.
Yeah.
What's the strangest experience you've ever had, whether performing or going to a show, or the weirdest?
We once, when this is again with the Real Mad Decent band that I played with.
This is Zach's sandwich.
What did you just say?
We once played in what used to be a church. I think it was somewhere on the island, actually. And it got kind of turned into like a cafe, but it was like in the middle of nowhere. Like we had to drive like down these dirt roads and stuff. And we were like, there's going to be a show here. And it was literally just the owners there, and they had like booked us for the night. So we just played to the people who put us up for a night and gave us food and everything. But like they were the only people there the whole time we were there. And it was super weird because we didn't make any money, obviously, but like it was like we just went and stayed for these people and played for them for the night. And it was like, do you guys ever have people here? Was this the plan? Like, do you just do this? And it was a very like, yeah, we stayed in like the attic, and they had it like it was like one big room with like a bunch of bunk beds and stuff, and all kinds of just like the craziest old knickknacks and memorabilia everywhere. It's a really weird experience.
That's weird on more than one level. It's weird, because like that's how a horror movie starts, is you're with your band, you show up and there's no one there, and you're like, okay. Like, yeah.
When we first knocked on the door, we were like, we should leave. We should not. This isn't it. This doesn't feel right.
And like the bigger questions, like if those people know no one's going to show up, like historically, why would you book a full band?
That's what we were thinking. It was like we kind of got duped, but they were nice. They were chill people, but the whole experience was very. What else is going on here? Were there too many of us so you couldn't murder kill us? Is that it? It was like,
yeah,
plan not
so weird. I mean, you hear about like when comedians go and they'll perform in an empty room, and it's like, oh, they booked me. So you're literally performing for the bartender.
Yeah. Hope you like my jokes.
Guys, the audience is in, okay, so you can go on.
How many?
One. Yeah, one.
When you write music, does it have to be a song you want to listen to first, or is there certain audience expectations that you keep in mind?
I think quite primarily I try and like, I feel like during the creative process, there's like thoughts that come up in your head that are, like, sometimes it's like, oh, will people get this, or will like people not like this kind of thing. And I, at least especially in the last couple of years, very much just only try and please myself and like please what I want to hear in music. You know, it's like I listen to music frequently, and I feel a lot of ways about it, and to just create something that I would enjoy, and then from there trust that other people will too.
And then with you sort of venturing into, you know, you're sort of doing a bit more solo type stuff, is the genre of music changing? You're saying you're using like a drum machine. Is it becoming a bit more like, not techno, but a bit more dance sort of focused?
Maybe more like electronic focused, yeah. I think even the stuff that we've been releasing has been recorded over the last 5 years, and we've done like a lot of experimenting on both sides, from getting like very electronic and pushing to see what we could do there, to like extremely acoustic and just breaking it right down. So I feel like we still haven't like left that experimentation phase of like trying things out and writing new things. And like a lot of what we will do will be like the demo ideas, or when we just start writing in general, we use electronic drums, whether it be samples or drum machines, and then later on kind of make the decision if we want it to be a live drum machine or a live bass, as opposed to like an electronic sounding bass, and just kind of let the song dictate what it wants to be, kind of thing. And then
so you guys aren't pigeonholing yourselves. You're like, you know, we have to do all real instruments for this song, or this other song will be all electronic. You're kind of just depends on the song, and you're just using one or the other to kind of sweeten the pot or put the cherry on the sundae.
Exactly, and to see how it wants to be. But then at the same time, like we will get to a certain point where we would be like, okay, the last 6 tunes we've done have all been electronic drums. Like, let's just mix it up. Let's try something else. Just for example.
That seems very healthy. How do you stay inspired and motivated? And then to add on to that question, you know, the last year and a half has been pretty rough on everyone, especially for live performance. How did you also get through that?
Definitely a couple things. When pandemic hit, I had got a decent little setup in my room already for a studio sort of thing. And whenever I would kind of run into a block with like writing or singing, I would just start learning, like getting better at a different instrument, like learning how to play keyboard better, like sitting down at the drum kit and be like, this week I'm just going to learn how to be a better drummer, and forget about writing songs, and like just still be involved in doing music without like writing it or trying to accomplish something bigger. Just kind of going back to building drum loops and just like having fun. And then after you do that for a couple hours, you usually stumble into something you like, and then you're like, oh, I'm writing something again. Nice one. But also psilocybin mushroom pills are pretty dope.
Psilocybin mushroom pills.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been meaning to give myself a bit of a reboot as I look for work. I'll check that out.
They help for sure.
How do you get over writer's block?
Yeah, I would say in a similar way, if I'm stuck not being able to write, or even like, I definitely go through waves of just like hating the lyrics that I'll produce and just being like, oh, well, I think all of this is dumb. Why don't you have something better to say? And in those cases, I'll like honestly just try and go be more present with the like people I love, and like the people, my friends and my family and stuff, and just like kind of get my head out of the musical gutter and kind of like, yeah, take a step back from everything and just go live my life with people that make me happy. And that usually kind of brings you back to writing again, for me at least.
Yeah, I find the brain works funny that way, where even if you try and turn itself off, your brain's still kind of, even if you're being present with your friends and family and just taking a break from music, do you feel like your brain's sort of still working away? And so maybe you wake up the next morning and be like, I got it. We just got to add this hook here. That'll fix that fucking lyric,
Totally. It never turns all the way off, but I do have to like try and like actively silence it and be like, no, stop that. That's not what you're doing right now. You're having a conversation with someone. Shut up.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I would really like to be just like a songwriter and producer, not even necessarily an artist, but just somebody who helps other people write songs and work on songs and like produce them and just like be in the studio, be writing in general would be the dream.
What is your feeling then with the present Vancouver music scene?
I think a lot of crazy things are happening. I think a lot of people are like finding their own sound, and like a lot of people are getting some like balls rolling in a cool way. There's been even it was rolling a little better right before the pandemic, and a lot of the live music shut down. But it seemed like a lot of different communities were all helping each other out, no matter like the genre they were working on. Like a lot of just like independent communities coming together to try and figure out DIY shit, because there is so much bureaucracy and red tape in Vancouver for trying to do any kind of live anything. The more you dig into it, the more it's like, well, this is impossible. Why would I just not break the law? Why are you doing this? But I definitely am super optimistic about what's going on in Vancouver for music. Even from what I've seen in the last like 15 years, I think a lot of people are doing a lot of really cool stuff, and see a lot of people helping each other out and coming together and creating collectives, and everybody's helping each other out in a cool way.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think one of my favorite venues was this illegal warehouse across from the Astoria. And it's, you go pay $10 to get in. And it's crazy. I think one of the last shows, I think it was December of, was it 2019 before, and then everything shut down? Was it 2020? It blends together now. But like, it was 100 of us cramped in this little, this little warehouse. The ceiling was like here. They had a smoker's room indoors, which to me, if you have a smoking room indoors, that's a sign of a good illegal venue. Because you always have the best conversations with like the guys, smoking a ciggy in the back, or girls. But yeah, it was just crazy. I think we were all squished together. It was a bunch of rappers, but then they had live musicians with instruments. So it was like this big band that had rap, and literally you could feel the rappers spit in your face. We were so close, and it was just like, it was such a visceral experience. And I'm glad that like that was one of my last big live show experiences, because it's such a foreign sort of concept now.
Totally. To desire to have somebody spit in your face a little bit is like,
yeah, I just want a stranger to spit in my face once in a while and it not be weird. And that was one of my last big experiences.
Can we go back to that?
Yeah, I don't think we'll never get there 100%, but I do think we're getting some form of that, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a piece of advice someone has given you in regards to just life or music that has always stuck with you?
I feel like just keep writing is definitely is from a homie of mine. It was just like, even just working together, and like, I feel like I underestimated, and even like whatever it is, like writing for me is like something I want to be doing, so it applied. But like whatever it is you're trying to be doing, like just do way more of it, and like fully engage yourself in it. And like, it was helpful for me to even just like kind of kickstart my brain into like what my idea of how much I needed to be doing, or what I needed to be doing, kind of had to be adjusted if I wanted to do the things I wanted to do. And even like lining yourself up with that too is just like to be like, what do you want to accomplish, and what is it going to take to do that? So you don't wind up in these like, oh, well, what am I doing? What should I even be doing? It's like,
Yeah, I talked to my first interview was a friend of mine he's a working writer director in Vancouver, and when I asked him about writing, he's like,
I think I write out of necessity. I never really saw myself as a writer until some of my films started winning writing awards, and I was like, what? I can barely spell.
But I just wasn't seeing basically the stuff I wanted to see on screen, which is, a bit more subversive, a bit more maybe black humor, stuff that other people would be nervous to do. And it was interesting that, he never thought himself as a writer, but you look at our grad class from film school and everyone considers, him and a handful of other people as like real like writers and professional writers, but he never really considered himself one. He just basically had to do it. Is your definition of success changed at all over the years versus, maybe what you wanted when you were 18 years old?
definitely. And I think even like when I got into music when I was even younger, like 12, 13, I was like way more eager to be on stage than to be able to play a song properly. You know, I was just like, well, like, yeah, I learned it. Let's go. Let's book a gig and let's go. And I think a lot of even what I wanted to be doing kind of stemmed from just wanting to be out there doing it. And over the years, I kind of fell out of love with that and more in love with the process of just like writing the songs and being in the studio. And like, it's a lot less alluring to even just like be on social media talking about the stuff and like trying to get out there in the oversaturated world that is music. It's just kind of like, I don't know, I just want to write some songs and I hope y'all dig it.
Yeah, well, there's so much of everything now, right? So it's hard to kind of stand out just because everyone's got a podcast and not everyone has a band, but everyone definitely has a podcast. Can you talk about the high you get on stage? Like, do you still get that same high? Because, you know, I do comedy every once in a while. I perform improv, and the high I would get would be like better than any drug, basically, or be, you know, similar. And I'm just wondering if you still get that kind of that high.
Definitely. And it's such a special feeling to even like have something to prepare for and to work hard at, and then to share it with people, and then like to be in that moment of like, yeah, this is something I really care about, and like have other people receive it, and like it definitely keeps me coming back every time. But I feel like also the way I've been getting that even through like the pandemic and stuff is I've got roommates and we jam and make music together and like just like improvise and just, you know, with no direct goal. And even that I feel like often brings me a similar feeling of like when things just come together and you're just kind of flowing with somebody. It's just like, whoa, that felt good. Yeah.
That's awesome. Can you talk about the feeling? I feel like a lot of people work on creative projects, you know, myself included, and then, you know, when they're nervous to share it when it's completed. And I would assume that when you create a song, it's very personal. You're really putting yourself out there, regardless if the song's based on real experiences or just experiences that are pretend or that you pulled from, or maybe it's an amalgamation of stuff. Do you still get that nervousness when you premiere a new song, and how do you get over that?
I feel like I almost get like more nervous to just like sit and show my friend a song than to like actually release it into the world, because I'm like, you know, like I don't have to sit there while you listen to it, but like still like sitting and like even like showing anybody, like friends whose like music maybe like we align with, like we both have similar tastes or something, like showing them is more rattling and nerve-wracking than like actually putting it out in the world. I feel like because there's that like separation. Like I put it out on Instagram and like I'll tell everybody, and it's like the people who are stoked on it, and then I don't see any of the people who aren't, you know. I don't have any haters yet, so
Yeah, is that because the internet's so impersonal and kind of not real?
I definitely feel that way.
Oh, that's interesting. I've only got a couple of questions left. What advice would you give to aspiring musicians or to people working on something creative? So you already answered sort of the second part. So I guess for an aspiring musician, whether you're 7 or 70, what would you do? What advice would you give them, or what's something you wish you knew when you were first starting out?
Yeah, I definitely wish I had started producing my own music earlier, or just like working with recording earlier on, because it's such a crazy songwriting tool, I think. And even would apply to like videography and visual arts in a lot of ways, just like finding a medium to execute your ideas. Because I think if you learn how to produce your own music, then you can accomplish the sounds you want to hear with more accurately. Like you don't have to rely on somebody to create the sound you want to hear, and thus like you're not creating. It even kind of helps eliminate some of the generic aspect of producing music. Sometimes when you work with producers, they'll have like, you know, an idea of how to make a song pop, but if you spend that time yourself, I feel like it's just such a great tool to guide you through writing in general. Yeah, just the people around you too, is like keep people who are into what you're doing, or even like if they're not, like if somebody else has some talents that you guys can help each other with, like working with the people around you and like creating a little community where you help each other out with your creative projects and shit is almost like the only way. And I've like had so much help from my friends throughout building everything from all the videos we put out to any artwork and everything. I've always had always go to other people to help me make that stuff happen, because I feel like it's a big struggle to do it all alone.
Yeah, I think being authentic, there's a lot to be said for that. And I think people are really good at smelling bullshit.
I feel like we underestimate the audience often. Like people underestimate how like what people can process. Like we're like, oh, we need to dumb this down to make sure. It's like the audience is smarter than you think, and they smell bullshit more often than you think.
Yeah, interesting. And that community is so important, especially in Vancouver, where it can be a very isolating city. Like, it can be isolating anywhere, but you know, Vancouver can be, you know, it's a big place. It's gonna be tough to make friends if you're newer there, don't have a certain
community to tap into. I feel like that is a big part of it. Is like even a big shout out to like the Stew Jam community in Vancouver. They've been doing like a live sort of hip hop night where everybody just comes and freestyles, and there's a live band and there's singers, and like I met so many musicians and just like-minded creatives through a space like that. It just propels everybody forward, you know.
What was that called again? Sorry.
The Stew Jams.
Stew Jams. Okay.
Yeah. They've been active through the inactive through the pandemic, but I think it should be back hopefully soon.
Okay. Is there any other places you'd recommend for, you know, artists or musicians, and if they wanted to network or diversify a bit?
Yeah. Not really, man.
Go to Meetup.
Yeah. I'm sure there are some links, but yeah, it's definitely been a little extra divided lately.
And are you completely self-taught? Like, you never went to school, correct?
No, yeah, never did any proper training. I've done like a bass lesson once and a couple voice lessons here or there, but a large majority was taught by like friends and family, essentially.
Ain't no 6-year-old boy understand the true meaning of the blues.
I reckon I might.
You play the guitar?
Never have before, but I'm a real fast learner.
Well, go ahead. You put your finger right up there.
I done a bad thing. Cut my brother in half.
All right, that probably answers my next question, which is, do you think you need to go to school for music, or does it maybe depend on your goals or what you want to get out of it?
I think I pushed away from theory and music way too hard. I think it's definitely like such a strong tool, and it will save you a lot of time if you do the work earlier on. So I would say maybe, yeah, go to school, but also like don't let school crush your creativity however possible. Because a lot of the most talented cats, I feel like you see too much and then everything's boring almost. It's like I'm still excited by like very simple 3-chord progressions because I don't even know what the chords I'm playing are really. So I can't be like, oh, that's just this, because I don't know that.
Second and last question: what is next for you, or what can you tell us about for anything you're working on?
So me and No Calvin are finishing up like 2 records right now. We've got like a project called Heavy Listening that's going to be 3 volumes.
All this trouble trying to get your eyes up, ego tripping.
So we're just finishing up the first 2 in like mixing and mastering stages, and filming a couple of videos for some releases in the next couple months, getting that all together. So yeah, in the new year we'll start releasing the new projects, and hopefully have some live gigs for next summer. Is probably exactly, just we'll be ready kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I'll be so fucking ready. I'll be in that audience for sure. For the mixing and mastering, is that something you guys share, or how do you? I guess video is the same way. Where are you guys sort of recruiting your nerdy video friends to help with the music videos?
For the mixing and mastering, Nick Hobden does all of that, as well as like produces and plays all the instruments, and it's just but yeah, we do it all in house. For not the actual mastering, we go to CPS mastering, which has been super awesome to us. And then for videos, it's kind of been a bounce around. It's usually like a friend or somebody I've met who's working on video projects, and we'll kind of collab together, usually still paid sort of gigs. But more recently, a close friend of mine, JP, who goes by Kara Cruz, me and him are working on a EP, like a musical EP for him, and he's going to film me a couple of videos. So we're just going back and forth like that to make it all make sense. Yeah.
So you're basically trading services for mutual benefits, which is fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny. I see it. You know, my dad's in his senior years, but him and his friends do that all the time. Or instead of cash, they'll just trade jobs, basically.
Yeah.
It's like that makes sense to me, because then the tax man doesn't collect that.
Exactly. There's no crossover there. It's just
I don't deserve this. I've worked hard my entire life to build up my fortune in real estate, railroads, and human trafficking.
I can't afford a really nice video. You can't afford an EP, but together.
Yeah, you can have a banging video that looks just as good, if not better, than anything you could get done. You know, if you hired a $10,000 production company. You know, it's just creativity. It's amazing when I'm a huge fan of having confinements, or being like, you know, you can do whatever you want, but you have these, say, 3 rules to follow, or you have a budget of $500, and it's like, okay, cool. Now, how do we make that? You know, you problem solve and you get more creative on come up with a solution for that. And I'm sure music's the same way, where, you know, you have this problem. Okay, how do we creatively tackle this? And I guess, have you ever had a huge instant where maybe, you know, a big problem came up where you guys were forced to, you know, solve it creatively, where maybe it ended up better because of that problem?
Definitely. I feel like there have been multiple times where we'll even like have a session and start working on a song or something, and then we'll come back to it and we lost all the guitars, or like, you know, you just like lose stuff, and then you just got to be like, well, what do we do? And you work on it, and a lot of the times it turns out better, or like, and there are the days even where you're just like trying to get that essence that you had before, and you just can't get it back, and it's like, that's okay. That's okay too.
Yeah, that
you just gotta
let it in a bottle.
Yeah, totally.
Well, cool. I guess do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so, man. I really appreciate you giving me a shout, and I'm stoked to see how this all pans out.
Well, thanks for being a guest. Like I said, I'm trying to get guests together, so I was stoked when you said yes. So I really appreciate it.
Hell yeah, man.
Wow, that was fun, wasn't it? I hope you guys enjoyed the interview, and I strongly encourage you to check Zac's music out and see him live when he's playing too, because he puts on a hell of a show. Also, support your local arts venues, whether they're doing comedy or music or drama, drag, interpretive dance, doesn't matter, support them. You know, all of our cities need culture, and all the artists there would love your support. So thanks again for watching. My name is Matthew Enright, and we'll catch you next time.
I am not the dude, I am not the guy. You don't have to boast, you don't have to pry. It's okay, Mr. Tough Guy. You can cry too if you need to.
The fucking police sirens. Maybe shooting this next to a busy road was not the wisest idea in retrospect.